Welcome everybody, it's time to talk about the global first upgrades for all of our festival units, and it's pretty exciting. There's some interesting upgrades, there's some not as interesting upgrades, but we have to be careful not to say global exclusive because, you know, I might even have said that with Hyoh, and he's already coming out in JP, and that's not terrible. I mean, maybe he was always planned for JP and they decided, hey, for a surprise, we're going to give him to global first, and there'll be a nice little, advanced preview or advanced, release of this unit. It feels a little bit less special to me. It doesn't feel like it was an anniversary gift to us as a global audience, just something that they were already doing for JP. Now, that's probably a bad take. I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? You can let me know. Is it like, am I just crying over nothing? Does it not really mean anything? Like, why can't JP have it too? Because he's a very cool unit. I'm sure he's going to do very well in JP. But it rubbed me the wrong way just a little bit. But enough whining from me. Let's talk about the upgrades. We're going to start with the most interesting one, probably the most anticipated one, which is Duane. And this is a big deal because Sephiroth just came out and people want to build dark units with him, especially new players, but there isn't a lot of dark on the horizon, so this is one of your big chances to get a very interesting unit and somebody that was a very powerful unit for a long time but dropped off just because his damage was okay, but his survivability really fell off the edge of a cliff. So has that changed at all? Let's take a look. So we've got a master ability 2, which gives us an upgrade of Death Scythe. It just reduces the AP cost of it. So this is a limit burst that has a chaining effect. It's AoE and it heals 50% of the damage done. So like hypothetically, that's all really great, but people turned it off almost all the time because it was just such a big AP sink that you had to just kind of not use it. So this is a big deal. I think that, in a very AP steady Duane build that, this is going to be a good way to increase his survivability. Now, what else did he get? He also got 20% more attack and then 20% HP. That's a big deal. He really needed more HP to kind of push him to be in a more competitive space. He also has a transcendence that we can look at. Slash attack resistance penetration, very good to see here. We also have single target resistance 15, which is great. That's really big, very powerful. And then Armor Crusher was upgraded. So let's go take a look at what that actually looks like. If we scroll down here, down to Armor Crusher. Okay, great. So it's a 100% hit attack now. That's huge, considering we have a lot of evasion in the meta right now. It's also a hate increase skill. So this is just a nut skill. What this skill will do is he's going to run in. He's going to slash imperil people. All of a sudden, your Sephiroth's going to be doing more damage. He's going to be able to hit those sorrows. He's going to be able to hit a Yuffie whose buff has worn off, and he's actually going to build up some hate and protect your other units. So very cool, very nice buff. I like that quite a bit. And we can go ahead and go look down at the upgrade to Death Scythe. And again, damage is still large. The AoE is still the same. The heights still the same. Really what we're looking at here is the AP consumption. The cost of it has decreased, and I actually think they should have pushed that a little bit more, and I really think it would have been fair. It's a one-use thing, and he doesn't have a lot to speak of from his sub jobs, so for them to give him a little bit extra there wouldn't have been so bad. But what are you going to do? So I think a big question with Duane is he going to be competitive now? And I certainly think he has everything it takes on offense to be competitive because he's got the barrier break. That's a really big deal. He has a dark imperil. He has a slash resistance imperil. He's got the 100% hit now. He can finally generate hate. He has ways to increase his defense penetration. He's got some shenanigans where you can actually, run your darkness or eternal darkness to essentially try to disable other people. That was a big strategy for him in the past. He can dispel auto revive or re-raise, but he can also get rid of courage now. And you might be wondering, what am I talking about? Well, if we go over to the new VC, he actually gets a specific skill here. It's very interesting because it's an AoE that has a 240 modifier. That's a very big, it's bigger than a large modifier we usually see. So it's an XL modifier, but it also ignores courage. So really powerful skill, and the actual VC itself, super good. Like AoE resistance 20, critical evasion 16, human killer, all really great effects. And again, the AoE resistance is really the piece of the piece that we're looking at the most here. And what's also interesting is that this is a katana VC. And now for a lot of people, we were looking at the Sephiroth VC, and we were thinking, well, there's not really a lot of katana support, so what are we going to do? Are you really going to pull for this? And some people said, well, I'm not going to, it's not needed. All of a sudden that changes, and we can still get that VC. People might go back now and pull for Sephiroth's VC because it also has katana and it also includes Duane on it. So Sephiroth and Duane can both use this, and as well as Dark Fina can actually use this too. So I mean, it's a pretty interesting VC. Lemure is also on here. If we go over to that Sephiroth VC, all of a sudden, slash attack 42, reaction block rate 32. Really great things here for Duane and for Sephiroth, and they can both take advantage of this. Yeah, I think that maybe, there's the beginnings of the Katana team coming together that could, or at the very least, a dark team that utilizes both of these VCs. So here's the thing. Should new players pull for Duane? That's a really tricky thing to be able to recommend or not. And I think that if you're an experienced player that already has Duane, it's a kind of a no-brainer that you can upgrade him and you can get some use out of him. But I still don't think his survivability has really been changed in any way, because he doesn't have a barrier. He doesn't have courage or re-raise of his own. I don't think that, his stat line in terms of resistances, there's some really strong ones, and then there's a lot of very much weaker ones. So, and there's also just a ton of penetration right now, specifically with fire and the amount of defense and slash penetration that they're bringing. So is Duane going to survive? Maybe not. But he's certainly going to be a powerhouse on offense, and he's definitely going to be bringing so much utility. Again, barrier breaks, courage, re-raise, the whole thing, 100% hit. He can do everything. So I think we're going to see some very dangerous Duane teams. I think some people are going to be able to build him up as tanky as possible, and with a healer that he might actually be in good shape to survive. So I do think we have a good unit on our hands. I do think that people will use him to great effect. I think he got the best upgrades out of all of the global first units. And so if you're a new player thinking you might want to get him, if you're purely thinking, well, hey, I can add a dark unit, I love dark, I want to build my dark team, then I say just go for it. He's a really cool looking unit too aesthetically. His moves are great. I think that you could really get a lot of use out of him. But if you're trying to be a little bit more selective, maybe you're really into Full Metal Alchemist as well, then maybe I would skip Duane and kind of wait for Raph down the road instead, and just be patient with your dark account. But I think you could totally get some good use out of him. By the way, if you're wondering if you should get this vision card, then I do think it's mandatory if you're going to be pulling for Duane, or if you already have Duane. I think it's just such a good addition for him. You get the agility on it, is quite a big deal as well, and any card with AoE resistance is worth picking up. So if you want to play this sword red mage job, if you want to play the black mage class, if you want to do a samurai katana team, whatever it is, then yeah, you should pick up this vision card. Otherwise, just skip it for now, pick it up down the road. It will come back eventually, and you can get it. You can always get it later. So if you plan on playing these, go for it. But if you're patient, get it later. Starlight Elena is another interesting unit for any players that are building light. And if you're a new player toward the Visions, you might not know, but Starlight Elena probably had the longest meta ever when she came out. I think that's accurate. I think it's the longest the longest meta that I can personally remember. So if anyone can think of a different one, let me know. But she was that good. So she's an evade unit with high damage, high penetration, and a lot of chaining. It's a really interesting combination. And what they've done for her is they've given her more damage through slash attack, resistance, penetration. They've given her dark resistance for a little bit of extra survivability. And then her courage skill has been upgraded. So now what we're looking at is an upgraded skill that has two uses. Very, very important here. It gives her critical evasion for some survivability, and then increased accuracy 30. Now that's actually really important. So the fact that she puts up her courage and has accuracy added on means that she's good as anti-evade. So, evasion units just build lots of accuracy because they're building so much luck, but at the same time, they're not necessarily necessarily accurate. It's kind of a crapshoot to see who hits who and who ends up winning the fight. So unless you have something like Sorrow has a increased hit chance skill, or you have high mobility to get behind people like Yuffie does, there's certain things that kind of edge those matchups. So for Elena to have that accuracy, that's a big deal. And I think that anyone that's building light certainly could just go ahead and build her, because even if she's dropped off in the regular meta, she's still very effective in a lot of content, especially cost limited content, because light can make some really good limited guild battle teams, or just things like class match or like pickup matches. I don't think like that many players should be pulling for her just from scratch, unless you have a dedicated goal of building light and you're ready to commit to evasion. But if you are that person, then you will get a lot of mileage out of her. Again, she's also so good for PvE because of all this chaining, right? So she has a 4 chaining skill here. Her limit burst is a 3 chain. She brings a lot of interesting abilities in terms of having that 100% hit chance on her sub kit, but then also having one of the most important debuffs you can get in this game, which is decrease agility 20% for 3 turns per target. So that's on her limit burst. So when you see that, again, that's an anti-evasion thing. She's attacking other evade teams, and she lowers their agility. That lowers their evasion. So this can't be countered either. So you can't reflex it. You can't use any of your counter abilities. Even if you miss on Sorrow and Yuffie, they're not using their 100% hits, 100% counters. So yeah, she's interesting. Zazan is another very interesting unit. I like him. I've always liked him, but he just wasn't quite cutting it, and his upgrade is just okay in my eyes. More slash attack resist penetration is one thing, so he gets up to an innate 40% here just on his master abilities, but then single target resistance, it's fine for an evasion unit to survive those 100% hits that are single target. And then a fake death upgrade, and really what we're looking at here is that fake death has 2 uses. So again, it's good, like it's really good. But one thing that's really interesting about it is that they did give it the AP consumption decrease, and that's something that was a problem for Zazan. He was in this case where you don't really want to use bells if you want him to have fake death and courage both active at once. So in that scenario, you're using these buffs, but if you don't have a lot of acquired AP up, then maybe you're not building enough AP, and he closes down to the opponent so quickly that he could run out of AP very quickly. And once he ran out of AP, he was pretty much done. Like he wasn't strong enough to, carry a team that way. So this is like directly addressing some concerns. Now, back when he came out, we had less acquired AP up that we could build, and now it's a little bit easier. We have sub cards, and we also have just more cards that we can kind of play with, and more equipment, trust stones, all that kind of stuff. So there are lots of ways to build an AP healthy Zazan, but this certainly won't hurt. So in an evade team, he's still one of the most evasive teams units around, so he's still going to be really effective in that sense. I guess we'll have to find out if this is a big enough deal for him to actually, be able to use AP reliably. Another interesting thing is that if you have these 2 uses of fake death, he can have fake death and courage active at the exact same time. But now you can kind of think about, well, I can go into match, one of Guild's battle with re-raise on, and then I can go into match 2 and still cast another re-raise. Maybe I can play around with his other sub jobs. So maybe I want to use low profile for more evasion and that decrease attack, the leaping slash, and kind of get into those things. Or maybe you want to mess around with his Viking job, because we actually see that with these high mobility fast units, they can actually close down and get in on people pretty easily. So he gets more defense penetration. He gets the ability to, well, I guess you wouldn't use that just because it has the decrease evasion rate 15 on it. But I think the Drain Cyclone is actually pretty interesting, just because you can get a lot of, like, you can get 100% slash attack resist penetration if you needed to. I still think Paladin's going to be the best, just because you get access to the Mortal Spirit, and that's 2 times you have to be killed before you can be killed for real, so 3 times total. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. And just to be clear, if you're a new player, I would not pull for Zazan the Unkillable. I don't think that he's a great new player investment at all. Finally, we have Fryevia, which is a unit that has been through so many upgrades. Now, again, if you're a new player, she came out. She was our first ever global first unit, and she was super underwhelming. She had terrible AI. We couldn't really change AI right away, and it sucked. And she got some upgrades and actually became quite an interesting unit. She became this tank that could heal really well, and against certain matchups she was pretty great. Now, she still wasn't good enough to be top of the meta or anything, but she was totally usable for ice teams and people had a lot of fun with her. So her dream upgrade, her transcendence upgrade, more spirit, so more anti-magic, that's fine. AoE resistance, very good to see for a tank. And then Spellveil Blade has been upgraded. Let's go take a look at that real quick. So what we're seeing here, this is already 100% hit chance. It already had the increased defense and spirit, but now it has a damage absorb. This is really good, but I wish this gave hate. That's the biggest thing. She has an attract barrier. That's good. But I think that this Spellveil Blade should give hate. I think they should have done the Duane treatment, and it's a bummer that they didn't do it. She still needs taunting spell for some matchups, when really you're not doing that because you want to use White Mage. And White Mage, she's going to do some really nutty stuff with White Mage, but man, would it be nice if Spellveil Blade gave you that option to really just get some hate, and then you could even take or leave the barrier. Although, I mean, the barrier is really good, so you're probably using that. I don't think this is the most powerful upgrade they could have given her. I think she's in a very similar space to where she was before. She can sustain herself more easily now while being on offense. She already could sustain, so I'm not really sold on this. Again, don't think a new player should invest in her. I wouldn't. I think she's just too tricky a unit to use for most players. If you're really into her, then that's a reason to go for it. If you like a unit, you go for a unit. Otherwise, I'm not really sold on her, and I'm not going to be investing in her, even though I pulled her off banner a long time ago, and she's just sitting on my account at level 30. So that's it from me. That's it for this video. Tons of upgrades though this week. Lots of things that we could talk about, and I will be planning on making some videos. Some more videos as soon as I can. I am going away on a 5-day school trip. I'm a school chaperone on Saturday, so I'll be back the next Wednesday. So no filming during that time. So basically it's going to be a mad dash to try to film some videos before I go. Hopefully I can do that and I can get some stuff out to you guys. But otherwise, we'll see you all in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.